So def, too lazy to type this out, ain't got time for that. All right, and I'll just write send commands. So this, of course, like I said, is sending commands to the target machine. So while true, because this is just going to loop over and over again, because we don't want to just send one command and then the connection's over. We just want to keep looping this as a constant loop, and that way we have a constant connection and not just a one-time shebang. So the command is equal to input. All right. So what this right here does is it actually takes input from the terminal. So this is going to be our input. So whatever we type in, not the client at all. So whatever we type into a terminal, let me see, let me pull up this as an example. So if we type in like echo hey, that's what CMD is going to be equal to. So what I want to do now is just write if CMD is equal to quit, then I'll just write this so we know to end the connection. So CONN, and remember this got passed in from the other function, close. And then we can close the socket. And closing the socket just closes the, again, the conversation or the connection between the two computers. And then sys.exit. And again, this is a system command. So basically just like typing it into the command line. So that's what happens if we ever type quit. And now we just type length encode CMD is greater than 0. Then what do we want to do? Now, the reason here, let me explain this right here. So you see whenever I open the command line and I'm just typing in like CLS or CLS, I'm just typing in like echo hey, you're looking at this and you're like, all right, these are just plain old characters. So you must think that this right here is of type string. But whenever you run a system command, these characters are actually stored as type bytes. So that's why you're going to see me encoding and decoding these back and forth. And what I'm doing is either converting it to a string or to bytes. So basically, whenever we just want to print it out for the user, it needs to be a string. And whenever we want to send it across the network, it needs to be bytes. And also coming from the command line or the process, it's going to be bytes. So now you know, there you go. So connection send. And by the way, what I'm going to do right here is what I'm checking for is just to make sure that the command is actually greater than 0 characters. And I do this because if they just didn't type anything and hit enter, then we don't even need to bother sending it across the network. Only send it if there's some actual data there. So we'll say connection send. And what we need to do here is string encode CMD. So from here, what we do is we just sent this command, whatever we typed in. And again, this is going to be something like CD or dir or whatever we want to do to the computer. And once we send it, we're going to get back a response from the client. So the response we're going to store in this variable right here, and we're actually going to convert it to a string so it's actually readable, because remember, when it comes to us, it's going to be in bytes. So we're just going to convert it to a string. So connection receive, I'll just write 1024, and this is just the buffer size of the data. And now UTF-8. So again, this is the response that we get in bytes, and I'm just gonna convert it to UTF-straight, which is a basic character encoding for string, just a normal string. That's what I'm turning it into. And now we can just print it out. So client response, and boom. Now the reason that here, this is kind of random, but why didn't I just print it out like this right there? Well, whenever we just print out the response, what it's going to do is it's going to print it and then move your cursor to a new line. However, if we use end right here, this says don't give us a new line character at the end. Why do I do that? Well, check this out. Whenever I write like echo tuna, what happens is this is going to be the response right here. This is going to be part of it. And my cursor occurs right after it. So my cursor doesn't get bumped down to a new line. And that way I can keep typing and it's pretty much going to resemble a command prompt. And well, there you go. So you guys are going to see the use of that later on. But yeah, we are rocking, we are rolling, and that is actually it for send commands. So, oh, might as well just finish all this up now. So def main, and now all I have to do is actually just make a function to just call this and this and this. So basically everything we just did. So def main, and this is just the first one that's going to run whenever we first start this program, and we're going to create the socket. And then we're going to bind the port, and then we're going to accept the connection. And we don't have to call this last one because whenever a connection is accepted, it automatically calls send commands so we can control that machine. So now if we just call main, then whenever we run this program, that is what's going to start. Let me get rid of these lines, and boom, there you go. So now we can actually run this right here, and what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, your server is now running, binding socket to port, tomato, and it's listening, waiting for connections. However, we don't have a client set up yet, so it's pretty useless right now. So in the next tutorial, that's what we're going to do, create the program that's going to go on the client's computer. It's going to be awesome. See you then.